Hi, I'm David Purchase from Johannesburg, South Africa. I've been bow hunting 25 years. I'm a former registered professional hunter and hunting guide, and I previously owned one of the largest archery shops in Africa, specializing in bow hunting. Today we're going to be reviewing the Shoresight V6 model bow sight. This is a fully automatic electronic bow sight, and it's a proudly South African innovation. It's designed, developed and manufactured here in South Africa. Okay, so what does the sight do? Well, at the push of the trigger button, it sends out a laser beam which you then direct onto the target. And once you release that trigger button, it automatically ranges that distance, sets your sight pin, and you take the shot. Now that ranging and setting of the sight pin takes less than 2 seconds. Okay, so how does the sight know where to set the sight pin for that distance for your particular bow setup? Well, it all works on the arrow velocity, the speed of the arrow. There are 149 programs, speed programs, that are written into the computer of the sight. And when you set the sight up for the first time on the range, you will get to a program that will suit your arrow velocity and your whole bow setup. It doesn't matter your poundage, your bow poundage, or your draw length, or the weight of your arrows. It's based on your arrow velocity. And this sight, depending on the speed of your arrow, this sight can range and shoot accurately up to 120 yards. Now, looking at the sight in general, I've taken mine out of the box and I've mounted it, but basically it comes out of the box in 2 pieces. You've got the bow mounting bracket and you've got the sight itself, and attached to the sight is the trigger button that runs on this cable into the sight here. The bow mounting bracket has 3 sets of mounting holes to choose from in mounting it to the bow, and the 4th set would be to mount your bow quiver. Off the bracket are the horizontal and vertical slides which you'd use when you're initially setting up the sight. And on the sight itself, this top section here, that section houses the target spotting laser and the rangefinder. Now, these 2 are integrated, pre-aligned and calibrated at the factory before they are mounted onto the sight. And that ensures that they lined up perfectly for the job that they have to do. This part is the battery that runs the computerized sight, the electronic sight. And this battery is very powerful. For each charge, you can range up to 1,000 times before you would have to recharge the battery. And you can recharge this battery up to 500 times on average. And in terms of charging the sight, it's just like your cell phone. You plug it into your UV cable and into your socket, and you charge up the sight. Below the battery, or at the bottom here, you have got 3 function buttons. Just 3 buttons, that's it. The top button is your on-off power button. The other 2 buttons here are used to change your program or change your manual distance, which you can do on the sight without using a laser. And then to activate whatever you changed, you would push your trigger button as your enter key to confirm that change. It's as easy as that. And there is a battery charger indicator light here. When you charge, red when it's charging, green when it is fully charged. And one other feature here is your blue dot sight pin. You can brighten the pin or you can dim the pin up to 8 times by simply pushing this button into the brightness that you require, depending on the hunting condition that you're in. Okay, today we're going to discuss taking the sight out of the box, mounting it onto a bow, and setting it up on the range. We're going to talk about the theory now, and we do the practical later. So once you've taken the sight out the box and you've mounted it onto the bow, you then switch on the sight by pushing the top button here, okay, the on-off button. Immediately what will happen, 3 things will happen. The sight will run through a syncing program, which syncs the whole sight mechanism, the rangefinder, the laser beam and the blue dot. It takes less than 5 seconds for the sight to sync itself. Immediately that it has synced itself, 2 things then happen. At the top of the sight screen will show the program that the sight is set on at the time. And the blue dot button will then also automatically default to 20 yards. And every time you switch on the sight thereafter, it will show the program that the sight has been set on, and the blue dot will default to 20 yards. It always defaults to 20 yards the first time that you switch on the sight. Okay. Now, this sight from factory will default at program number 90. It's set to default at program number 90. Now, program number 90 on this chart reads an arrow speed of 257 feet per second. Okay. So the first thing you do when you switch on and it's gone through its syncing program and it shows you program 90, which is the factory default, and the blue dot sets at 20 yards. The first thing you do then, or the next thing you do, is you have a look at this chart. You know your arrow speed, you pick your arrow speed, and the chart will tell you what program your arrow speed should be close to, if not on that target. For example, an arrow speed of 281 foot per second is program number 107. So if I'm shooting at 280 foot per second, the first thing I do is there's only these 2 buttons then to use once you've switched on. I then press the F2 button, I hold it in for 2 seconds. Up will come program 90, which is the default from factory, and then using the up key here, I will up key up to program for 280 to program 107. Once I've hit 107 in the window, it'll show me, I push the trigger button once, just push it once, and it will set on program 107. Now I've initially set my sight to the arrow speed based according to this chart. We then go outside to the range. I stand at 20 yards to start off with. I shoot the first arrow. Now this sight has been designed to work or to set up exactly as a fixed pin or a normal mechanical sight will set up. If you're shooting to the left, you would move the horizontal slide to the left. If you're shooting high, you would move the vertical slide high of the sight in order to get your sight in. This sight is no different, it's exactly the same thing. So at 20 yards, based on a program of 107, which it's given me, I don't worry about that anymore, I take my first shot, and if I'm lower left, I will set my horizontal slide to the left. You always move into the fault. You always adjust your sight into the fault. I'm shooting left, I move my horizontal slide to the left. I'm shooting low, I move my vertical slide low, and I shoot again, until at 20 yards, by moving vertically and horizontally, I'm now shooting in the bull at 20 yards. That means at 20 yards now, I've now set the sight manually to that distance on 107, program 107. I then go back to 40 yards. Doesn't have to be exactly 40 yards, 41 yards, 38 yards, it doesn't matter. Because remember, the rangefinder, the laser beam, the rangefinder automatically sets your sight pin to that distance. But let's say at 40 yards. I then take another shot. Now, that shot will tell me if I need to go left or right a little bit, which is a manual adjustment, okay? But if I'm shooting low or high, that adjustment you make by changing the program. If I'm shooting high, what do? I move into the fold, I move my programs up. So if I'm shooting high, I'll go from program 107, and in doing that, I push the F button and hold it for 2 seconds. Up will come my original program that I've set in, 107. I'm shooting high, I want to move up. So by using the up key, I will push the button, say 3 times, and it will show me from 107 to 110, let's say. I then push the trigger button, which enters that adjustment that I've made. It'll flash 3 times, 110. This sight is now set on program 110. I take the next shot at 40 yards. And I do my program selection up or down until I'm in the bull at 40 yards. Given that my left and right is already set in at 40 yards, my up and down, which is on the arrow keys, the program select, I then make sure that I'm in at 40. Now in theory, or in practice, that sight is now set up for any distance. But just to make sure, I'll go back to 60 yards, I'll take another shot. I might be at that time a little low or a little high, but I'm going to be close. And if I want to fiddle a bit and I'm a little high, I will hold the F2 button in for 2 seconds. Up will come program 110 that I was in at 40. And I'll go up 1 program because I shot a little high. I'll go to program 111, for example. Push the button, sets it at 111, I take a shot at 60. I should be on the money, okay? And if I'm on the money, that's the sight set. It doesn't matter what distance now you shoot at. Based on your bow setup and your arrow velocity, you have now set that sight up accurately. And this sight shoots accurately from 1 to 120 yards. You have a maximum of 120 yards sight pin to shoot the sight at. Obviously, for 120 yards, you've got to be shooting on this program, you've got to be shooting a very fast arrow, over 300 foot per second. But for me, for example, I shoot an arrow at 260 foot per second. According to this table, 260 foot per second, my program is 93. And it happens that it is 93. Once I set up my bow, I was on program 93, just as the chart told me. And at 260 foot per second, I lose the dot in going back, the blue dot pin in the window. And the further you go back in range, obviously the lower it drops. I lose that at 87 yards. So at 85 yards, I got the blue pin dot right at the bottom of my target. And on a good day, I expect to shoot, and I do shoot, a grouping of 8 inches at 85 yards. That's how accurate the sight is. I'm sure a younger person and a more steady person than I am at 64 would shoot a better grouping than an 8-inch grouping or a 20-centimeter grouping, probably half of that maybe. And that's very good at 85 yards. But if I was shooting an arrow velocity of 300, 310, I could go way past 100 yards and I would get a blue dot on the rangefinder and I would shoot, and I would expect to shoot on the bull, if not close to the bull, given of course windage and stuff like that. Now, by the way, on the back of the chart, or shall I say on the front of the chart, is a quick and easy guide to set up the sight. Obviously, for those who don't want to read the 15-page user manual, which gives you a lot more information, by the way, because this site can do a lot more than what I've already explained it to do. But for the guys in the rush, this is a quick and easy setup guide to get the sight onto the bow and to quickly set it up. But I have explained how it works. Now, the short sight comes in two models at the moment. The V6 model, which has the built-in rangefinder and target spotting beam, and the V6.1 model, which doesn't have the rangefinder and the spotting beam. Now, how would you use the sight if you don't have that? Well, it's very easy. By pushing the F2 button once quickly, up in your sight screen will come the distance, the last distance that you ranged, okay? And if you use your own rangefinder to range a distance, and you know what distance it is, you then use the up and down buttons to get yourself to that range. Push the button, the trigger button once, it automatically sets the sight pin at that range that you've selected. You take your shot. It's as easy as that. So let's say, and by the way, if you push the F2 button once quickly, it automatically defaults at 40 yards. It sets the sight pin at 40 yards, and 40 yards comes up and shows there. Say I want to shoot at 36 yards. I will then use the up and down key, or the down button here, and I push it 4 times down, and it will show me in the screen here, down from 40 to 36. Once I've got 36, I push the trigger button, the sight pin sets at 36, I take the shot. It's as easy as that. And that is basically it should not take you more than half an hour at most to set your sight up from the time you walk onto the range, because it is a very, very simple sight to work. And you have only got the 3 buttons, of which one is your on and off button. That's it. And if you switch off, and the next time you shoot, you switch on again, the sight will automatically go back to the last program that you selected, program 117, for example. Your default pin your blue dot pin will default to 20, always at 20, until you range using the rangefinder, until you range a target, which automatically sets your blue dot pin to whatever range that is. But when you first switch on, you always default, the pin always defaults to 20 yards. Okay, what else now? Yes, one other button, the F1 button here. That button is your pin brightness button. I did explain that previously. So you can then also adjust, when you switch on, the blue dot pin automatically defaults to the lowest pin sight glow, the lowest glow, okay? And from there, you pushing that 8 times, the F1 button, if you push it 8 times, you will see the blue dot pin brighten, 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 right up to 8 times. You push it the 9th time, it goes back to the lowest dim. And then you will then set, based on your hunting conditions, you might be sitting in a dark hide, you might be walking stalk on a bright day, you will set your blue dot pin to what suits you best on the day. It is a brilliant sight, it really is. It's so simple to set up, it is so effective, and it shoots really, really accurately. It's a game changer for you and for sights, both sides. It really is a game changer. Okay, we're looking through the sight window at the moment, and if I were to switch on the sight would immediately run through a syncing program which lasts less than 5 seconds, and immediately that finishes, you'd see at the top of the sight the program display that my bow is set on, program number 93, and at the same time the blue dot, the shooting dot, would automatically default to 20 yards. Let's demonstrate that. There you go, we're running through the program, and immediately 93 is shown and the blue dot default at 20 yards. I can now literally take a shot at 20 yards. The other feature, if you look at the shooting dot, I can brighten it, as we've said before, up to 8 times. Okay, now, my bow is facing the wall, which is approximately 1 yard away, 1 yard away. If I were to push the trigger button now, what would happen? Well, the laser beam would be activated, it would sync with the rangefinder, and once I release the trigger button, it would immediately show the range, and in this case it would show 1 yard. Have a look at the same time at the shooting dot, because that's going to drop considerably for a distance of only 1 yard to shoot. Let's demonstrate that. Right, I've pushed in the trigger button, I release, there's the 1 yard at the top, and my shooting dot has repositioned for a 1 yard shot. Obviously I'd have to lift the bow up considerably in order to shoot only at 1 yard. Okay, let's demonstrate changing the program. My bow, my sight is set on program 93 for me. If I wanted to increase the program, I simply hold the F2 button for 2 seconds, up would come 93. I would then use the F2 key again to key up to whatever program I wanted, and then push the trigger button, which would automatically enter that program and keep that program in the sight until I change it again. Let's demonstrate. Right, I'm holding in the F2 button for 2 seconds. Up comes my program 93. I use the F2 button, which is the up key, again, pushing it up to whatever program I desire. Simply push the trigger button, and it will hold that program now until I change it. Okay, if I knew the distance that I wanted to shoot at, I could manually change the dot pin to that distance by simply pushing the F2 key once. Up would come the default distance of 40 yards, and then I would use the up or down key to move to the distance that I wanted. Simply push the trigger button after that, and that distance would then be set, the sight pin would be set for that distance. Let's demonstrate. Right, I push the F2 button once, up comes 40 yards. I want to go up to whatever distance I want, so I push the button again, the F2 button. Let's say it's 47, okay. I push the trigger button, and my sight pin is now set on 47 yards. It's as easy as that. Okay, basically we've covered how the sight works in general and how to set it up on the range to get the right program that suits your bow setup. Just to round off on the sight itself before we go and discuss things practical on the sight. The outer casing of the sight and the brackets are moulded in South Africa, and they describe it as being moulded from high-end engineering modified polymers. Well, all I know is that it is very light and very tough, the outer casing, very strong indeed. And the whole site weighs just 11 ounces. Yes. What else? You can fit a magnified lens to the site. It fits at the back, and it will magnify ×2. In other words, it will bring the target halfway closer to you. Simple to fit, 4 screws at the back, back plate comes out, lens fits in perfectly, and the back plate back on, and there you are. You would have to reprogram the sight if you did fit a magnified lens. You'd have to shoot the bow in again to select another program, but all the programs are already set in the sight for that. The sight has a spirit level at the bottom to show if you're canting the bow or not as well. Okay, we know that the sight houses 149 programs, of which you'll have selected one on the range eventually that suits your bow setup and has got you on the money at right up to the maximum distance that you can shoot. But what if at say 60, 65 yards you found that you were shooting a couple of inches high and you wanted to get it spot on? Well, you can actually tweak that program and the distances to get it exactly right if that's what you want to do. And they call the short sight officers as the GUI, the Graphical User Interface. And basically what it does, it's a program where you take the program that you're on from the site onto your computer. You can then tweak the distances by, say, at 60 yards, if you're shooting an inch high, you can then tweak that 60 yards up to target points, pinpoints up in the 0.5 resolution that we spoke about a bit earlier. You can tweak it up, save that, enter it back into your sight. So that up to any distance you can shoot exactly on the ball, provided you're good enough to do that. And have that sight perfectly set up for you at any distance. And basically, well, how that works is you go onto the Short Sight program, www.shortsight.co. You would go to the folder Short Sight V6 package and click on that. You would then create a folder. You then connect your sight with the UV cable to the computer, download your particular program to that folder, okay? And then the Short Sight V6 package program will allow you to tweak at any distance, either up or down, your dot pin at that distance to get it exactly right. You then save the changes you made, you upload it back into the computer, and off you go. It's as easy as that. As you'd expect with a top of a range sight, would be the package that it comes in as well. Very sturdy, strong, well presented package, promoting the sight as well. And inside, the sight is housed in this rubberized protection, and it's specifically molded to fit the sight perfectly, so that there's little chance of the sight being dropped or bumped in transit can be damaged. Very well protected inside the box. What else is inside the box? What does it come with? Well, the V6, the user manual, 15-page user manual, which we've already covered. It gives you all the information on the site. The quick guide setup for the site itself, and on the back, a list of all the programs with the pertaining arrow speeds, arrow velocities. The safety key switch to turn off the laser. There's a set of safety keys there. Allen screws to mount the sight onto the bow, and there's an extra set here to mount a bow quiver as well, if you were going to use that. Velcro straps to tie down the cable from the trigger button to the sight itself. all housed inside the box. Very well presented, very well done, and a brilliant site overall. Okay, that basically ends the review of the Shaw site. An incredible site, fantastic site. And if you want, I hope it's been informative by the way, and if you want any further information on the site, please don't hesitate to get hold of me, or sales on the site, let me know. I'm on email at daytona@telcomsa.net.